and welcome to the iGlobal Great Big Indian Wellness Show 2021. I'm Bhavna Barrett, and today I'm joined with two incredible people who are doing fantastic things when it comes to sustainability and talking about veganism, vegetarianism, sustainability as a whole, and why sustainability matters. So we are joined today by Nitin Mehta, MBE. And Nitin was born in Kisumu in Kenya, and he's lived in the UK for many years, but he's a dedicated professional with an excellent reputation in organizing cultural events. He's also a very passionate speaker on India's spiritual heritage, as well as vegetarianism and veganism, which is why we've invited him here, because we want to talk about veganism as part of the whole Sustainability Matters program. We've also got with us the lovely Vrindavani Lal from Omnom, and she's I've been speaking to her behind the scenes, and really great energy about talking about mantra meditation, Ayurvedic cooking, Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga, and lifestyle. And she represents Omnom Restaurant and Studio, and she's got over a decade of experience. So welcome Vrindavani and welcome Nitin sir. How are you both doing? I hope you're having a great day today. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Brilliant,
Thank
brilliant.
you so much.
So we want to talk about sustainability as part of wellness. So obviously we're doing the Great Big Indian Wellness Show right now. And, sustainability means different things for different people in the current age. And we obviously, for us, for instance, in our household, we start right from the children are almost born with the products that we buy, what we're consuming, what we teach them in terms of recycling and the food cycle, where things come from. And obviously in Hinduism as well as a whole, we have quite a large part of the way we live our lives is actually, I would say the basis is on sustainability, growing your own, eating vegetarian food, or, most people are vegans in most of the countries that I know of anyway. So what would you say in the current day and age, Nitin? So if I start with you, like what are the trends you're seeing with consumers changing their lifestyles? Is veganism just a token word? Is it something that's becoming a trend word? Or is there a definite shift?
Yes, okay. There is a definite shift, but the causes behind them are various. I mean, in today's times, there's a piece by Prince Charles, and he's saying the same kind of things that we've been saying for the last 40 years, that the intensive food production, meaning meat production, is the biggest cause of the damage to our planet. Now, the really worrying thing is that there is not much time left now. For the last many years, decades, we had been saying it will happen. It's now happening. We are actually seeing extreme climate all over the world, especially in America. But we saw it here only the other day in London. So we might do small things, and it's very important at home. But the biggest challenge is that mankind has to change the diet from a meat-based diet to a vegetarian and vegan diet. It is so crucial. And if we fail now, we will fail our future generations. In our lifetime, we'll see huge issues, because the way the animals have been locked up in factory farms means that the forests have been cleared. All the green pastures that we had in Europe, in UK, have been cleared. Because what happens is that once these animals are locked up, they still need to be fed. So this land, which is empty of animals, is used up to grow crops, to feed animals. And then we are eating the animals. I mean, look at the illogicality of it and the waste of it, because the very grains that can feed you and me are fed to the animals, and then people are eating animals. Now, the amount of water resources used up, almost 50% of world's water resources is used up in raising animals. The amount of waste the animals create, about 30 billion tons of waste comes out of animals. And where does this go? It goes into our rivers, our soil, and it just creates dead zones in so many places. So this is the biggest challenge we are facing, that we need to urgently persuade the world that we need to go away from a meat-based diet. This is the biggest challenge.
I mean, it is definitely a challenge because obviously, I mean, I have seen a huge shift in people around me where even in schools where they are trying to introduce more vegetarian meals during the week. You know, the school that my son goes to, they have 2 days a week where it's vegetarian meals. I've seen a shift in families saying, you know what, we're going to reduce the amount of meat that we eat. But it is still a challenge because it is, you know, the larger population and the Western world that we live in, it's a way of life, right? Like we still around people who don't really quite understand veganism because they think it is a trend, you know, like a lot of other things that come and form from like maybe, you know, Indian ideologies and stuff. Like we've seen this with yoga, for instance, that's become commercialized and it's used differently in different parts of the world. And veganism, like, you know, it's like a token word nowadays. Like, yeah, you know, sometimes I hear people going, well, I'm just going to try it out to see what it's like. Or I'm just vegan for the day. Or we want to, obviously the challenge is that we want to get these people to think about veganism as a serious thing, not just a trend. It's not just a fad that you do that today and tomorrow, you know, you're going to change back to being a meat eater. So, you know, let me ask you, Vrindavani, you know, is it just enough to change the food habits? You know, like if people are just going to say, well, I'm going to move from being a meat eater to a vegan, or, you know, and also, you know, we have seen like people, I've seen, I'm sure you guys have seen, there's a lot of documentaries out nowadays. You know, there's the Seaspiracy, which is about fishing and why we shouldn't really be fishing and eating fish, for instance. And then there was one about, you know, the meat that we're eating and the forest we're cutting down. And it has an impact, but is it an impact that's actually doing something long term, or is it something that people are trying for short term? You know, that shock factor, oh my God, I can't believe I am contributing to this. And then forgetting about it because all of a sudden they see a McDonald's advert and they are tempted by that. So is it enough to just change the food habit? Or, you know, what is it that we actually need to do to see real change in this and not leave the imprints that we're leaving currently?
Thank you. It's a great question and beautifully worded as well, of course, Bhavna. That basically, I think for everyone, you know, the journey to veganism or vegetarianism is a very personal one. Not only is it cultural, but it's also evolutionary within the person themselves. You know, I was raised as a vegetarian for many, many years. And actually, my mother was vegetarian for 15 years until she became pregnant with me. And actually, she was told, you know, like many people, you know, they get told, oh, you know, now you're having a baby, you should eat meat. You know, so it's almost like there's scare tactics. And you know, she did start eating meat again afterwards, but then later she found vegetarianism again, and in turn she raised me and my brother like that. And we're both vegetarians, our whole family, generally speaking. And but I think it's a very personal journey. It's not something that you can just kind of change overnight. Like you can't just change your culture overnight. You can be inspired, but you know, the journey has to kind of come from within. I think it was Linda McCartney who famously said, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would become vegetarian or vegan. You know, and I think it's that classic thing of out of sight, out of mind. You know, but once you make that switch and you start seeing around you, you know, you just walk through the supermarket and down the meat section, it becomes very macabre, you know, is very disturbing actually. But I think it's not just changing the way we eat. I think it's the way that we think. It's the way that we see the world around us. Between, you know, okay, this is my pet dog, this is my pet cat, but forget about cows. You know, and it's like we treat cows almost like you know, a non-animal species. They just become a complete commodity. For 2 years, I actually, you know, I can tell you a personal story. Please forgive me for this, but I did actually work in a steakhouse at one point during my hospitality journey. But over time, through that experience, I started waking up through the process of yoga, meditation, the whole lifestyle change, which is my point about it's not just enough to change what you eat, it's a whole thing. It was through the process of yoga, meditation, education, association of other people, that I started to realize, hang on a sec, there's something fundamentally wrong here. It's not just what it tastes like or the culture of go to a steak restaurant or something. And slowly, I started to become vegetarian again. But it was back and forth sometimes, I'm not going to lie. But then after all that time, I ended up finding myself, after a huge spiritual journey, on a sustainable farm in the UK called Ahimsa Milk. And it's one of very few projects in the whole UK or even the world that does completely sustainable milk. So the cows never get killed. The boys and the calves aren't separated from the mothers. They sell their milk on local farmers markets and supply other places. And it's in the same line of vision as now I'm in the city working for a place like Om Nom, which talks about enlightened eating. It's a whole cycle, you know. So Om Nom is now a vegan restaurant, of course, but it's about sustainable agriculture, it's about sustainable food, it's about the culture, it's about bringing people in through meditation, education. So it's a bit of everything. That's quite a long answer, sorry, but yeah.
No, that's amazing. And I think to add to that, like for me, you know, in our household, I'm married, my husband's English, and he has embraced also, like, I don't eat you know, steak or meat like that. We have chicken in the house, so we're not complete vegetarians, but I was raised as a vegetarian. My household, there was never meat in the house because we had a temple in the house. So there would never be any meat in the house. Even if we had guests who ate meat, there would never be meat in the house. You can take them out and eat at a restaurant, but you would never come to the house. But then when I went to uni and I felt really sick, and they said to me basically that you need to eat meat. You need to eat meat. So the only thing I'll have is chicken, and that is it. And my kids are raised that way. They don't eat any other meat. And I often get told if I go out with my friends, or my husband doesn't, you know, like we don't cook any of that in the house. So he's pretty much follows whatever we follow. And he literally about 2 weeks ago said to me, we don't even eat a lot of chicken. We should just stop buying it. I said, yeah, you're right, we should, because we eat more of the vegetarian diet anyway, more of the Gujarati diet. It's how I was raised, etc. But what was interesting is when we go out for meals with our friends, they always say, oh, you know, she's one of them Hindus, she don't eat the cow. And I always say to them, that's really offensive, because, you know, do you even know the purpose of the cow in our culture? Or, you know, I was like, for us, that's like a mother, because if I can't feed my child, if I can't breastfeed my child, where is the milk going to come from? You know? And so if I'm then slaughtering that cow, you know, it's like, and I'm, you know, it's like, it's a cultural thing, I guess, for me as a personal thing. But at the same time, trying to educate everybody else that way isn't going to work, because like you said, it's a lifestyle change. You have to start from the bottom up. So even if you start with little things like recycling or buying products that are, you know, cultivated correctly, like organic things farmed correctly, even just fruit and vegetables farmed in the correct sustainable manner in a farm that is sustainable, buying milk that's sustainable, slowly changing that to then going into a way of life where you introduce yoga and veganism, and it's a bit more of a balanced life. I mean, Nitin, do you have something to add to that? Like, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I think really the situation is much more serious. It's not about gradual change now, because we literally are in the last chance saloon. This planet is giving up. So an urgent change is required. And 2 or 3 points you raised about veganism actually is not a fad now anymore, because right as we sit here and talk, huge number of companies in America and here are coming up with alternatives to meat and dairy, and they are going to be flooding the market in a big way. And they're not doing it for certainly because they love the vegans, but they are seeing the trend. They're saying the market is there. So veganism has crossed that barrier from being a trend to actually being a very, very serious issue. So that's something very interesting and encouraging. I mean, people like Greta Thunberg and the Extinction Rebellion, all these young people, much younger than us, they're really, really committed because they know that their children,
yeah.
yeah, that
I was
their
just going to say,
children,
Lewis Hamilton's opened a restaurant, isn't he? He's plant-based now, and he's opened a vegan restaurant in London, and he's a huge personality. So of course, you know, there's change.
Yeah. Regarding the chicken, I'm going to make you a vegetarian food today, because the chicken is the most abused animal in the world.
I know. I am making changes. I promise you.
There are 4 times more chickens on the planet than human beings at any time, stuck in small cages. A lot of them have got salmonella, which are, you know, you're likely to get. And about 90% of them carry, fecal matter in their bodies, which would not sound very nice, but it's the truth. So in the olden days, they used to say white meat is good because it's less fat. But the way the chickens are brought up now, very quickly, that they're as bad as red meat. So we need to take that step again forward. But overall, like the lady from Hong said, sorry, her name I forgot. Yes, it's all about also a bit of karma, because the way we treat animals is going to rebound on us. At the moment, we are going through this horrible disease at the moment, coronavirus. But it's come out of an animal, and about 200 diseases come out of animals, right? Exactly because of the way we interact with the animals. So, and tens of thousands of people die of these diseases every year coming out of animals, just because the way we interact with those animals, like the wet markets in Asia, where they sell wild animals like monkeys and other animals for meat. So mankind has got to really got to actually be more humble and accept that the planet that we are living in, we share with the animal kingdom, and we survive on each other. And otherwise, as these forests disappear, at the moment, even the wild bees are disappearing. Wild bees are so important for pollinating our food. And you know what, funnily enough, in China, they use sticks to pollinate because the bees have disappeared. In California, they import tens of thousands of bees from other part of the country for the pollination. Because once you damage the greenery and you introduce pesticides, South America is a very good example. Poor people, Amazon forest is being cleared. Now, the Amazon forest is our lungs. Mankind is so intelligent. And where is this intelligence now? That you're just destroying these forests just to produce beef, cheap beef. And these poor South American countries, they are bearing the burden of it because they are made to produce more and more soya and everything to feed these cows. And the pesticides are so lethal that the local communities all suffer from diseases, asthma, heart diseases, their children are sick. So sadly enough, one arm of the country might make export of 10 million pounds of meat. On the other hand, the country is suffering health conditions which will cost them 20 million pounds in the future. So not only is meat wrong morally, it is exploiting the people of the world, it is exploiting animals. And the urgency is such that we really got to act, and all of us need to be activists. We really need to go out and be part of these big movements so that every aspect of animal abuse is stopped. We have now been able to introduce cameras in slaughterhouses because the way the animals were being, so it's a law for you to have and there almost millions of animals are exported alive. Look at their rights. Where are they fed? What kind of journey do they have? So we are fighting each corner of the animal rights to achieve that point where mankind can actually be morally feeling confident that they're doing something right.
And that's, I mean, to kind of sum up this conversation that we've had today, is the kind of crux of it, that it is urgent. We need to act on it, and we all need to do our part to bring about change. And I know you were saying anything that it's, it is urgent, we need to do more, but every little bit counts, right? Like if we just start as a collective making those changes, we will get there a lot quicker. But we need to all start somewhere. So, whether it's from the recycling bit to wearing, clothes that are sustainable, to eating, food that's sustainable, and or whether it's a complete lifestyle change and turning into vegetarianism or veganism, it is an urgent it's an urgent call. Like we need to act as a collective, as a world, to make those changes. And this is exactly why sustainability matters, for our own wellness and for our own well-being and the well-being of the future generations. So I've had a great conversation with the two of you. I've had a really great time chatting. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't been able to catch this whole live, then please do catch up on it at iglobalnews.com. You can watch it as many times as you want on replay, also at iglobalnews.com. And it's been a pleasure to have Vrindavani Lal and Nitin Mehta on our show today. Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.